Guys, welcome to Tech and Tech. As you all might know, because it's common sense, that war has always been a very fragile subject within the human history. In even the smallest things could change the outcome of certain battles that would later on affect the outcome of a war. Because in battles there are usually two contestants, but sometimes there's a third one, sometimes because their goals are aligned with one of the competitors, sometimes because they have their own separate goals. Can sometimes be three or four sides, but there's usually two, with each one anticipating different things with different certain things that would come out of a battle, but only one of those two expectations, three or four expectations, come to reality. This shows how fragile war is and how even the slightest things like camouflage, guerrilla warfare can affect the outcome of almost every single war that we know. So in this video, we're going to talk about how such a fragile and important subject became something that we can all do from our homes, inside of our computers, and it's basically a part of our daily lives to go into wars on our electronic devices and video games and things like the likes of that. We're going to talk about wargaming and how it started. Well, wargaming started first in Prussia. They wanted to have a way to find strategic geniuses without the need of sending them to battle and then seeing them as a soldier being promoted with certain ranks and then coming by to becoming general. It's a very long process, and for a strategic genius, it's not a very good one. They wanted to be able to spot these guys right at the beginning before sending them to battle, because in battle, as I said, lots of unexpected things could happen and the strategic genius could die. So they wanted to try this, and so on. Their universities came by with the first versions of the war games, and well, they were playing these, and they were calling it Kriegspiel. Spiel in German means play, like game, and Krieg means, well, war. That's where the word Blitzkrieg comes from. Krieg means war, Blitz means lightning war, and this was war game. And so on, they inside of their universities, they used these they had terrain, they had different troop types, and then they would mix these up in any certain way. They would sometimes have a small thingies to put up at fortifications that granted certain bonuses to the person occupying the fortress or the person attacking the fortress. There were hills, there were rivers, all of which had effects on the players that were playing. Later on, this evolved, and they wanted to make some for amusement rather than just for use in the university, which is why sometimes later another person invented another version of this game, which it had a map. It was a very big wooden table, and then it had different soldier types, like it had cavalry, it had artillery, and it also had infantry, and so on. This one was distributable. It wasn't you couldn't mass produce it. It was very expensive, but it was something that the royal people could still play. And then later on, some guy decided to make this so that it can be distributed among all of the people that live in Prussia and probably the rest of the world. So he decided to come up with the idea, why is this so hard to maneuver around? It's because it's on a very large table. If you manage to make the entire map into a certain piece of paper that you can draw on with a pen or a pencil, and then erase the thing and then draw another map using your pen or pencil, you can actually make the table a lot smaller, and that you can play on different terrains rather than all of it being on one certain terrain type. Like the other one, you had to play entirely on the same map every single time. But this one, you could customize your map every time you wanted to play. And well, later on this evolved, and the royal people found out about this, and well, they wanted this game. So the guy decided to make a version of this. It was a very big wooden table. The wooden table was the base of all of the games. And this one had very big drawers for different terrain. These times the terrains were put up in tiles that were somehow compatible with each other. You could put multiple tiles next to each other in order to create different terrains. One was for mountain ranges, one for hilly areas, one for rural areas, one for flat areas, farmlands, and things of the likes of that. And well, of course, they had soldiers, different types of soldiers. And well, you would sit and play these as the royals. You would just set up your map however you liked, and then you would just start deploying your soldiers, and then you would start moving them forward in turns with terrain affecting them, of course, and then you would have them battle. And but the problem was that this time we all know that, well, on paper many things look different than what they do in real life. Like, let's take the War of Vietnam as an example. On paper, the Vietnamese shouldn't have held on for even an hour, but in reality, they won the war. Let's take the War of Ukraine as an example. The Ukrainians shouldn't have even survived an hour, but now they are currently at war. And well, they have also attacked on Russian soil. So many things in reality are different than things on paper. This one was like, the more troops you throw into a certain battle, the more your chance of winning. Like, you would win 100% if you had even one more soldier than what your enemy had. Which is why later on some guy decided that, yeah, this thing shall be played by everyone, and that he wanted to make it so that it's it's way better. Which is why he added luck-based system. He took the customizable map from the earlier designs, and well, he also added the different soldier types, and he also added a certain different thing that I will talk about later, because it was like the most fun part. Well, the dice was there so that, like, before engaging in battle, you would have to roll the dice, and then, like, based on the dice, the outcome of the battle would be determined. Sometimes the die could roll in your favor, sometimes the dice didn't. There was also like one type of dice for every engagement. It wasn't like the game we play Risk. It wasn't like that. There had multiple different types of dices, each for like when there's a different ratio of attackers and defenders rolling in a certain battle. Like, if you had more soldiers than your opponent, you would use a dice that would simulate the simulate that, like, percentage of your soldiers compared to the enemy. And well, this luck also allowed for, as I said, things look different in reality than they do on paper. So this would actually affect the game, so that you would have to make sure you have the maximum amount of strategic advantages as you can gain against your opponent. And then also the other thing I talked about, like I said I will talk about, was the empire. Not the empire, the umpire. It was written with U. And what this thing did was that basically it would take orders from the different players in mailboxes, so you'd actually have to write military commands like actual real military commanders. And this guy would read them, and he would do the corresponding moves. And then this guy was this guy was the one controlling the game. He was the one that would tell you, like, yeah, your enemy soldier is here, and now you can see it. Like, if he's behind a hill, you cannot see it. If he's hidden in a jungle, you cannot see it. This was the problem with the war games back at the time. But with the Empire, this didn't happen. You had things hidden, you had things showing, like you showed your soldiers to your opponent, and once your opponent engaged, you would use your cavalry to flank them, you'd use your artillery to surprise them. Anything could have been done. And later on, with the invention of computers, we got other games like the Total War series, Hearts of Iron, we had Men of War series, we have Call of Duty. All of these games are different example of wargaming. Some of these put you in the commanding of not only a certain group or army, but the entire government that you have to roll out, like Hearts of Iron, Napoleon Total War, Rome Total War, and almost all the games in the Total War series. You would have to control your economy other than your army. But there were also other certain games like Men of War that would put you in battle, and you would have to command battles in order to win things with the small squads. Like, they were sometimes your friends, they weren't sometimes your friends. You had to do things as a squad. You weren't the general of an entire army. You had to use your squads effectively and efficiently in order to win. And in Call of Duty, you're just one soldier. You have to command as a single soldier in order to win on the battlefield. So there are also different levels of being in these war games. There are like games like Rome Total War, Napoleon Total War, and probably almost all the games in Total War series had something called custom battles, which you could just go jump in, and then you would have to drop your pieces. Like, your enemy would have to choose his own soldiers, and then you would put them up in any ratio that you would like. And then using your strategic mind, you would have to determine what you should do, when you should do it, and how you should do it. Like, One of my most famous tactics was I would put artillery on the side, infantry in the middle, and then I would put cavalry behind the infantry. And once the enemy cavalry came by to encircle me through my artillery, like taking out the artillery in the way, I would use the cavalry to delay them while the infantry was fighting. And then I would rotate a certain wing in order to go engage the cavalry, because, well, in Napoleon Total War, I used to do this usually because in Napoleon Total War, cavalry had a very frightening charge. Like, a charge could break many men, and but they were very vulnerable. You had to make sure that these charges were from the side or from the back in order for them to actually affect the play. So I would usually use this opportunity with cavalry to delay them, and then with the infantry, the ones that could basically farm cavalry for experience, I would take one of them over there and fight. There was also certain things that different nations had, like the Prussians, which I used to play mostly as, were better with rifles than they were in melee combat, which is why usually in my battles, the enemy would try to engage me in close quarters rather than standing around and fighting, because, well, they were better in close quarters, while my soldiers were better on shooting with the rifles. Now, I might make like a montage of some of my most memorable battles, but yeah, maybe I make that, maybe I don't. Anyway, either way, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the war bell to be notified of the rest of the wars that flicker on the channel later. Thank you for watching again, and stand by for my next video.